Hi there, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making the elf gnome using the bubble body pattern. Now, boop, I'm going to show you, boop, these guys up close and personal. They're 10 inches tall. If you'd like to make them, just stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, as you all have requested, I'm going to show you the fronts and the backs of these little cuties. And while I am fixing her skirt, I just want to ask you, have you joined the Facebook group yet? I'm going to put that link down below. You can see their little bums sticking out. You may notice they look a lot like this guy that I shared earlier, and that's because he is a no-sew gnome and this one is sewing. You can get that pattern below. I'm using fur, wool roving for braids. I'm using fleece for the bodies. I'm using this minky red fabric. A lot easier to work with than velvet. And then I made these large 2-inch or so-ish gnome noses and about 1 inch for their hands. So I'm taking the pattern here and I'm just cutting all of the pieces and then prepping them for sewing. And just one note, I had to redo my little feet because I accidentally put them the wrong way when it came to the fuzzy part of the fleece. For the elf ears, we're just going to stuff a little bit of polyfill before we put the pins in. And then we're just going to take absolutely everything we've got over to the sewing machine. So I've got arms, legs, ears, bodies, and hats. I also have their cute little shoes, but not all the accents. Now, speaking of the ears, you're just going to top stitch this together and put in some lines for the ears. It's not technical. Mine look like a pear. So I'm just going to sew all of these, leaving the openings on the shoes, of course. And then I'm going to trim up all of my seams, turn them inside out, and start building my gnome. I'm using 2 cups of poly beads, 1 for each gnome, and then I'm going to generously stuff their bodies with polyfill all the way up to the top. A little trick is to roll it in your hands, drop it on the table, and make sure it's solid. I'm going to stuff a little bit of polyfill up into the hook of the hat as well as the top. And you may have to take out some later if you do it too full. And then I'm going to also stuff the shoes. Now, I used the too long of legs for my stuffing for my legs, but you might also want to stuff your arms and legs. I have a very, very small beard for this guy because I wanted you to see his shorts, but I'm just going to put on this thin beard right to the body about halfway down. I'm going to attach the nose right up at the very tippy top, and then I'm going to add hot glue to the top of the clay, and I'm pushing the hat down. I'm going to tack it down on either side and give it a scrunch, adding a little hot glue to keep it there. You can either pull down the hat in the back or not. The next step is to sew the feet onto the legs. Now, this is something that's optional, but I have the shorter legs in the pattern, but I wanted to see what it would look like with really, really long legs. So again, I'm putting wire and stuffing if you don't have the extra fleece. I'm going to leave about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch so that I can stuff those directly into my body. And then I'm going to sew the leg by hand onto the body. So I'm using you can see my thread here, but you won't see your stitches. All right, so once you have those down, you're actually going to, oh, I'm sorry. Well, you're going to finish her other leg in just a second, but apparently I skipped ahead to putting on her nose. All right, so I'm going to attach my arms directly to the body and to the hat after I get them even. Make sure you get them even. I've had to redo so many. I added a little bell to all of their shoes, and then I put on their hands. Okay, so for the trim for the elf shoes, all I did was take a couple inch piece of the minky fabric. I hemmed one side. I wrapped it around to get my measurements because you do want a little overhang, and cut the second one there. And then I just cut triangles in the bottom all the way around so that it would look like, you know, festive. But you can decorate these any way you want. A little later I'll be using cording that's already prepared. You can use that as well. Or you can leave them exactly, you know, like this. Little red elf shoes with green legs would look really cute too. All right, so I added a bell to each of their little bonnets, and then I attached my ears by hand. I'm going to show you this up close, but I only attached the bottom probably quarter. And here you go. You can see I'm only going to sew on the bottom quarter, and then you can tack the top if you would like them to sit directly against the hat, but I didn't. Personal choice, I suppose. All right, tie those off. I always sew a button on anything I have to manually sew, so I put little buttons on their bums before I dress them. Speaking of dress them, I actually used my swanky pants pattern, so if you have that, we're just gonna make shorts. I'll put that pattern below for anybody who's new here. I'm going to hem all of the edges like we do in the original pattern, and then instead of attaching it in the back, I'm gonna attach the seam in the front. And that way, it's because I wanted to see their cute little bums on display. So all I'm doing is following the pattern, but I'm backwards, right? So we're attaching that loop right there, that loop over seam. Wow, I'm popular with text messaging today. Okay, so here I am just adding little cording to the bottom of his pants, and then or shorts, and then I'm making little overalls, just because it kind of looked like he had no clothes on up there. So I'm just adding 2 little strips of the minky fabric to join the hat and the shorts together. I'm going to repeat that with the little girl. I did the shoe accents, the ears, and the braids, and now I'm going to make her a dress. So what I did is I cut 5 inches or so of the minky. I ticked the bottom, and then I used tulle, which is 6-inch tulle, and then I folded it over on itself and just did a running stitch. So I'm gonna pull it through, and then I'm gonna tie 1 knot at the end. You can see it here. There you go. I just want to make sure you don't forget that part, because we're gonna tack this directly to the skirt. Okay, so here you go. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a whole lot of little pleats again, and then we're gonna tack that to the skirt. Make a whole lot of little pleats and tack that to the skirt all the way around. And when we get to the end, you just brush it out, wrap it around. Oh, be sure to tie it off, tie the little tulle off, there you go, and then hot glue the fabrics together. And guess what? You're all done. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Do you like them? What do you think? Boop. Let me know in the comments below. Boop. Get the patterns. Be sure to join that Facebook group. And don't forget, you can watch more gnomes right here on Ruffles and Rainbows.